Today, it is difficult to imagine a home bathroom without toilet paper. It is commonplace and not even discussed. But this now iconic product did not always exist in the Soviet Union, and people had to be accustomed to it through advertising and persuasion. Yes, there were times when a Soviet citizen could be surprised by toilet paper because people in the Soviet Union were not spoiled, and for a long time they used a piece of newspaper crumpled for softness, old letters, notes and all paper that was in the house for going to the toilet. For convenience, the pages were carefully cut into small squares and stored right in the toilet room. Today, it is very difficult to imagine such a situation. People are very sensitive to their health and most often carefully study the composition of a particular product, cosmetics, medicines, and so on. But the printing ink used to print periodicals contains lead, but in the days of the Soviet Union, no one cared about such trifles. There is a newspaper, so we will use it. Moreover, when toilet paper appeared, few wanted to buy it, preferring to use the cheap and familiar old-fashioned way. True, there was one thing, but before using the newspaper for its intended purpose, they tried to remove portraits of the leaders of the CPSU and communist slogans from it. It is clear that no one would notice this at home, but you never know. There were times when toilet paper could only be seen in hotel rooms, and in those rooms where foreigners lived. From abroad came the majority of hygiene products. The turning point for sanitary hygiene in the Soviet Union was 1969. It was then that a separate complex for the production of toilet paper was built in the Leningrad region. And in March 1969, a paper-making machine was prepared, which was the size of an almost three-story building. The huge 40-ton machine operated at a speed of 140 revolutions per minute. The equipment for paper production was English. The Soviet Union purchased 2 WMS machines, and from them 5 production lines were made. The first rolls were received in the period from October to December 1969. The equipment was complex, its debugging took a lot of time, so the process stretched out for several months. During the first year, the plant produced 31.6 million rolls, and in January 1970, the first Soviet toilet paper began to arrive in stores. Although at the beginning it was decided to produce toilet paper in small batches, the plant's management expressed concern that the products would not be bought. In some ways they were right. Soviet people were not eager to buy this unnecessary product in their opinion. It is clear that the first samples of toilet paper were not as soft and beautiful as today. It was quite hard paper with an unattractive gray color. Nevertheless, in comparison with newspaper sheets, it clearly won. However, serious work was ahead to overcome prejudices and introduce such a hygienic product to the masses. Soviet citizens were not ready for such refinements and had to launch an advertising campaign. Short commercials were shown in movie theaters before screenings, telling about the advantages of use. Instructions were also printed in newspapers, and heads of large production facilities in the Soviet Union were given 10,000 rolls of toilet paper to distribute among their teams on a voluntary or compulsory basis. Of course, let's remember the legendary Soviet comedy, and the lines from it, "If they don't buy, we'll turn off their gas." They also produced other paper. In sheets, it was more of the usual book format. But many Soviet people did not understand how one could spend money on something that would literally be flushed down the toilet. And newspapers at that time cost pennies, much cheaper than toilet paper. True, after a while, people got a taste for the charm of relatively soft and skin-friendly paper, and it became a real deficit. It was not uncommon to meet people on the streets hung with rolls of the coveted product, like African booze. Why was paper so scarcer? Firstly, because of banal theft. They stole from the bases of the enterprises themselves. Among other things, there was a lot of rejects. A quickly cut roll was not suitable for sale, and such paper was written off. Also, in the USSR, profit did not concern the enterprise, and the main thing was the plan. The toilet paper production plan was successfully implemented using the existing equipment, and for example, when they did not buy a machine for cutting the packaging in time, therefore, the line designed for 60 million rolls per year produced only 17 million. And so on at many other enterprises. In the mid-70s, restrictions were introduced on the sale of this product to one person, no more than 10 rolls, or even less. At the same time, they doubled the production volume, bringing it to 66.7 million rolls per year. But these measures did not help, and toilet paper remained in short supply. And only in the 80s, the urgent problem was solved when they began to put into operation new enterprises for the production of toilet paper. Today, fortunately, there are no such problems, and you can buy any toilet paper, which, depending on the cost, will have a different number of layers, a beautiful shade, and even a pattern. Only those who lived during the Soviet Union remember newspaper cuttings and prickly hard paper. Please like and subscribe. There will be many interesting videos ahead.